The race for COVID-19 vaccine has started. The official representative of United Kingdom has announced that they are the first ones to vaccinate their people because they are the best country in the world. And I thought that it's Lithuania. However it is, the question is important. Will there be enough vaccine for everyone? Today I would like to talk about COVID-19 vaccine in the context of patent systems. Patent, let me remind you, is exclusive rights given to an inventor in return to him sharing his product with the society. For that, the patent owner has the monopoly. And monopoly in return means that he can set any prices he wants until the monopoly expires, or better said, until the patent expires, which is around 20 years. What does it mean for the access of COVID-19 vaccine? About all of this in just a few seconds, but let's start from the beginning. Around the year 2000, around 20% of the population of the Republic of South Africa were infected with HIV. In the military, almost 45%. Back in those days, 42 million lived in the country, 50% of them below the poverty line. Essential medicines in the public sector were basically unavailable, and in the private were extremely expensive. So the epidemics of HIV basically paralyzed an already fragile healthcare system. The average income back in those days were around $2,600 a year, while the medicine for 1 month for one person for HIV would be around $1,000 per month. To tackle this issue, the parliament tried to make a legislation that would reform the pharmaceutical industry within the country. The norm would encourage lower prices for the pharmaceuticals, would build up a new infrastructure and industry within the country to produce essential medicines, and also would legalize parallel trade. Parallel trade means that one medicine, where it is being cheaper, is being imported to another country where it is more expensive, which was exactly the case of the Republic of South Africa. The pharmaceutical companies united and sued the Republic of South Africa, claiming that this kind of legislation is anti-constitutional because it goes against the international agreements of the Republic of South Africa. That agreement being TRIPS, which does not allow parallel trade except in the European Union. Pharmaceutical companies also reminded the Republic of South Africa that there are other mechanisms they can use if they want to lower the prices. Compulsory licensing is an exception foreseen in TRIPS agreement Article 31, stating that if the countries are facing national emergency, they can give permission for other organizations to produce and sell patented products without the patent owner's permission. As I mentioned, of course, this is allowed only in emergency situations. And so the pharmaceutical companies were asking to the Republic of South Africa, why wouldn't you use this clause and produce the drugs yourself? In return, the Republic of South Africa responded that they do not have the capacity. There is not a single company in the country that can manufacture the required amount of such a difficult drug. Long story short, eventually pharmaceutical companies dropped the case because of public pressure. And after Doha agreements, World Trade Organization confirmed that the parallel trade is allowed in exceptional circumstances, but the exporting country cannot export more than the importing country needs to manage the crisis, and the importing country needs to prove to World Trade Organization that they truly cannot do the drug themselves. These procedures, even though they are logical, makes the whole process very difficult, And so far, only one country once used this exception, being Rwanda, when it imported antiretroviral drugs from Canada. In the early October of this year, the same Republic of South Africa, together with India, delivered a request to World Trade Organization asking to waive the patents for COVID-19 vaccines, arguing that if the patents prevail, the developing countries will have problems accessing the vaccines. Meanwhile, the World Trade Organization, even though haven't announced the final decision, reminded to the Republic of South Africa and India that they are the ones who actually established the precedent, meaning that the strong countries such as India, which has one of the biggest pharmaceutical industries in the world, can produce the vaccine themselves under compulsory licensing. Meanwhile, the countries that do not have such capacity can import from countries such as India. In fact, that was exactly the case back in 2000s. The Republic of South Africa was importing medicine from India for the prices 10 times lower than the ones within the country. Yet, the international non-governmental organizations are trying to gain the momentum and help the Republic of South Africa and India to stand their position, agreeing with them that indeed the current patent system is not effective and will definitely prevent the countries getting the access to COVID-19 vaccines. Meanwhile, the rich countries do not see any problem with the existing patent systems. Maybe that is not a surprise because the pharmaceutical companies are concentrated in the rich countries. And even though rich countries cover only 14% of the global population, they have already bought around 56% of the total potential COVID-19 vaccines. So those who enjoy a bit of hypocrisy can find plenty here. There exists one more legal mechanism that countries might use in order to get the access to COVID-19 vaccine. The same agreement of TRIPS, Article 73, says that a country can ignore the agreement if there is a threat to national security. Many legal scholars argue that the pandemics of COVID-19 definitely suffices this definition, and countries will be free to break the patent laws as they wish. Other scholars, though, disagree and say even though the countries under this clause would be allowed to produce the vaccine by themselves within the country, they would not be allowed to export it to other countries in need, because that per se is not a matter of national security. Thus, they say eventually they will be using the Article 31. It seems that only time will show which exact mechanisms will govern the situation, but the governance is needed. For example, at the beginning of pandemics, the giant pharmaceutical Roche refused to release the recipe of the essential ingredient to produce diagnostic COVID-19 tests, and because of that, laboratories couldn't take up quickly and produce enough of tests to manage the pandemics. There were cases when in the midst of the pandemics, pharmaceutical companies were suing each other for patent infringements. So hopefully this newly arrived vaccine in the period of Christmas will not show the darkest sides of humanity. My name is Barbora. I am currently studying Health Economics Master in the University of Bologna, but I'm sending you my warmest regards from Vilnius. Do not forget to take care of your immunity system, eat well, sleep well, and may the peace of this Christmas period comes into your homes and families. Cheers!